after the experience happened, being outside, I feel energy and I feel things being alive now that I didn't feel before. And I experience that with color significantly. And what I experience at that beach, that feeling that we can get outside, I can also do that with color. And this sort of experience of being outside and how the moss is alive and growing, and even this bamboo, I've noticed it on my windowsill, how it changes color all the time. There's something about color that is alive in terms of energy and what we can do with that. A lace-cap hydrangea. This last summer I was walking by one, and literally, it was down over here, the flowers were literally jumping off the branch almost, like or off the shrub, glowing and like singing at me. And so when I looked closer at it, the colors in the individual leaves and what Mother Nature puts there in terms of how they dance together and kind of sing underneath, that's what we can also do in our interior spaces with color. And I've noticed this effect of how to feel that at its highest vibration. You guys have seen those magic eye books before, where you kind of blur your eyes and you can eventually see deeper, a picture behind all this that's up front. It's the same ability to kind of look beyond and blur it's a sort of funny phenomenon that you're blurring your eyes to see beyond and to get the energy that it's emitting. It's not just what's on the surface. It's being able to go deeper and get what's underneath it. So as I was starting to have these experiences, I needed to know what is going on. Why am I experiencing everything so differently? Like, I really felt like I was going crazy that year. And so fortunately, someone posted a link to Jill Pulte Taylor's TED Talk on Stroke of Insight. And she, at the age of 36, she was a neuroscientist and experienced a stroke that completely shut down her left hemisphere of her brain. And being a neuroscientist, she kind of knew what was happening to her as it was happening. And so this TED Talk is an experience of what happened. So only functioning on her right hemisphere, she was in a complete state of enlightenment, and just, it was divine. And so her description of what she experienced only being on the right hemisphere made me go, oh, so what I'm experiencing, okay, it's there, but some part of my brain is sometimes not allowing me to experience it. So how do I open up the other part of my brain to let it experience it more all the time? So I started looking deeper into Feng Shui and ancient schools of thought, and the part of Feng Shui that's really important to me is that by improving the flow of qi or energy or whatever we want to call it within our own homes, within ourselves, that the impact is greater and ripples out to the whole earth, and how impacting that individually then can have healing ability for the whole earth. And then going even further, because I knew how physics explained it, I wanted to go even back further in physics and in science and say, you know, okay, well, Sir Isaac Newton did this in the 1670s. Where did it start before that? So fortunately, it's amazing how these little pieces of information just drop into your lap that you're looking for. So I had heard somewhere how science and religion, mysticism were all one at some point. And then recently, a client, Sharon, we were talking and she said, oh yeah, like the Tao of Physics. So she lent me this book, and sure enough, back in ancient times, science and mysticism were linked. And I believe we're getting back there. We're starting to see how power of thought and energy influences things and has magic abilities. So then Itten was at the Bauhaus around the turn of the century. And then he is probably a pioneer, again, in terms of the power of energy, or of color in terms of energy, but then also what appeals to each of us individually and the power of light with that. So it was Itten who then started saying that individual people have their own internal palettes, their own internal energy and balance of what feels best to them. And it's using that where I've come up then with the dwelling palettes. So the dwelling palettes are using 12 Benjamin Moore paint colors within each one, but they're balanced using color theory, that warm, cool thing, so that they vibrate higher. But then the colors that are together will actually feel like those dwellings when they're applied. So to some people, a villa is going to feel a heck of a lot better than a penthouse. And those change, too, throughout our lives. So it's whatever supports you best at that time. We can go beyond that one. So then, in my own learning and understanding, I explained that I was an elementary school teacher. And at the time that I got started, Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences was very hot at the school where I was. And Howard Gardner came up with 7 basic intelligences, that everyone has a balance of each of those intelligences within them. They're different learning styles, they fluctuate, and where it didn't really go anywhere in terms of psychology, educators have really latched onto this. And I, working with kids, would see this all the time and design lessons in certain modalities that would work better. And at the time that I was in school and we were learning about this, the question was proposed, are there any other intelligences aside from these 7? And the professor at that time, she was working directly with Howard Gardner, and said that he was pondering a few other ideas. Well, so this was back in '94 that the question was posed. But with my process and where I've been in the last year or two, I went and looked up Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences to see, has he identified any others? Because now, as I'm more awake to this other dimension of energy, that I now do believe that there are things that this culture and that our mainstream education is not addressing. And it's the energy that's a big part of it. And so when I look at Howard Gardner's, he's come up with these 3, a naturalist, a spiritualist, or an existentialist. To me, all 3 overlap and are talking about what I'm talking about. A naturalist is a person who sees patterns in nature. Well, color theory, light, science, all of that, that's the naturalist. And then the spiritualist and the existentialist is looking for the ultimate reason. So to me, the 8th intelligence may be a combination of those 3. And then, again, personally, so I started doing this 7 years ago, and this color, Timothy Straw, was so hot. Everybody loved Timothy Straw. I would walk into people's homes who I hadn't done work for, and there would be, is this Timothy Straw? I mean, Timothy Straw was everywhere, and I used it in my color consultations all the time. About 3 or 4 years ago, used it on a client's bedroom. You know, everyone had always been so happy. It all got painted. He called me back. I went and I looked, and I'd had people call me back before, and it was always something else. But this time was the first time that it was like, you're right, that looks horrible. What is that? And I mean, he had to repaint. It was a bummer. So since then, I have never used Timothy Straw again, I don't think, in anyone's designs. And this process that we use in doing a color consultation is the clients are the ones choosing, saying, ooh, yeah, I like that. Ooh, yeah, that feels good. Yeah, I like that. So for some reason, this one was never feeling good anymore. And over these last 2-3 years, it's just happened so often. Well, with what now I'm aware of and awake to, I believe that this color never is going to feel good for maybe another 20, 30 years because of the Earth's light. That's what makes colors go in and out of style, and particularly within our homes, because this color in the 70s was really hot, you know, these avocados and golds. Well, about 10 years ago, they were beautiful again. Everyone was having those colors in their homes. And now they feel disgusting. And the color hasn't, I mean, I know that hasn't changed. So what's changed? It can only be the Earth's light. So we have to think much bigger. much, much bigger than we've been thinking. So then that brings me to Gaia, which is the idea that the earth is one organism and that we on it and all the animals and everything are like the individual cells that's helping our earth to evolve as one singular organism. And so if that is the case, then I believe that I'm here to help the earth heal with how color truly works. That's it for introduction.